All right, thank you guys for joining me here today, and I appreciate you guys tuning in for my Q&A video. I'm Clancy, your weight loss warrior. Hit that like and subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you get all of my videos. And today, like I said, I'm going to be going through some questions that you as viewers sent in for me to address and to answer, and I just so appreciate you guys sending in some questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond and have a chance to talk to you guys. So I do have some notes here in front of me, so please forgive me if I am caught looking down too much. I will be reading off some of my paperwork here. So let's just jump in. As you guys know, this last week I attempted and succeeded in an 8-day water-only fast. And for whatever reason, the reason that I was doing the water fast was to address this abdominal pain that I have been experiencing for about 14 months now. Towards the very end of my water fast, the pain seemed to increase and get worse. And so I was wondering if I was hurting my body more. But after consuming solid food, after a couple days of broth, the pain has gotten so much better, and I'm so pleased to say that it is Thursday of this week, and I ended my fast on Monday. And I, over the last 3 days, have experienced very minimal pain. It's been very manageable, and I'm just so thrilled that it seems as though my water-only fast plus the saltwater flush that I did really had a great health, beneficial impact on my body. So I'm just so happy about that. And I have resumed my alternate day fasting schedule since my 8-day fast. And so that means I'm eating one day, fasting for a full 24 hours the next day, or a little longer, it seems like. I've been pushing it to about 30 or 32 hours, and then eating, and then again today is another fasting day. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions that you guys sent in. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to respond and to talk to you guys. So the first question I got was, what's the hardest part of getting started? Now this is kind of a loaded question because there are many functioning parts, many difficult parts when it comes to actually getting started on a lifestyle change or a new journey as far as a diet goes. One is like cutting out sugars and all those complex carbs that our bodies are not designed to really break down. Our body doesn't know how to process those and where to send them to actually help our body function more. So honestly, it's like we're putting junk in and our bodies don't know what to do with it. So it says, well, what's something that we absolutely require to do is to make fat. So in times of scarcity, when food is scarce or nutrients are scarce, we can pull from those fat reserves and use that. But most of what our standard American diet is comprised of are these toxic added sugars, complex carbs, insoluble fiber, things that our bodies just don't know what to do with. So they end up hurting our bodies, causing inflammation, causing weight gain, and overall just really setting us back, especially if we're trying to maintain a healthy weight and trying and attempting to be as healthy as possible. Another one would be adopting a new routine that will ensure that you don't stray too far off track after you've started a new lifestyle change or a new diet or new journey as far as that goes. So like I said, it's a little bit of a loaded question. But for me, when I stopped to really ask myself, what was the hardest part of getting started? As you guys know, I journal a lot, so I flipped back through to like the very beginning of my journey, and I had kind of asked myself this question on paper. So for me, mostly, that biggest question is, how deep is your willingness to change your life, to change your diet, to change your habits, to change who you hang out with, to cut out not only toxic ingredients but toxic people? How willing are you to completely flip over a new leaf and change your life? And for me, I was at such a low point when I started this whole journey that when I decided that I had to do something and I had to make changes, I honestly think that I would have tried anything to see some kind of difference in my life. I would have tried anything to end up at a goal that I had or an end result that I had. Um, I would have tried anything. And where I was when I began this whole process, like, it was honestly life or death. I was so far down the bad path that my health had become so poor that if I didn't do something, and this wasn't even really coming from doctors. I hadn't been to a doctor in over 3 years when I began this process, but this was all some things that I knew in my own mind and in my heart that if I did not make changes and buckle down and really stick to my goals, that like I was going to die a lot sooner than God intended me to. So I knew that it came down to my willingness, and I was going to have to find that willpower within myself. I couldn't get it from exterior sources. I just knew in my heart and in my mind that I was going to have to really just suck it up and buckle down and have the drive. I didn't know where it was going to come from, but I knew that I was going to have to find it somehow on my own. The next question was, how do you motivate yourself every day? So for me, I literally have to wake up and make a decision. I choose me every single day. And I know that that can be a difficult thing to do, especially if you are in the habit of not loving yourself, not showing yourself or your body respect on a daily basis. And that in part has a lot to do with what we put in our bodies. You know, if we're constantly putting in toxic chemicals and, you know, genetically modified things that really hinder our overall health and our basically our quality of life, you know, we're not loving our bodies and we're not respecting our bodies very well when we're doing that. But I spent years not loving myself and basically abusing my body with the type of diet that I was following. And to live a journey like this one, like mine, you have to learn to respect yourself and to truly love yourself, which has been one of the more difficult components of my lifestyle change because, like I said, I spent years not loving myself and really abusing and being so hard on my body. So like I said, I have to wake up every single day and decide that I'm worth it, decide that I'm going to make those good choices, those positive choices, those healthy choices for me, because I know that I'm worth it. And all of this would be for nothing if I just decided one day to be like, and toss it all out the window. I have just learned so much and I know so much. And in the process of knowing and understanding all of that and gaining all of this knowledge, along the way, I learned how to love myself. And a lot of that comes from making up my mind, pushing myself even when it sucked, even when it hurt so bad, but continuing to push through and overcome hurdles. Like, that taught me that I'm worth it and to love myself, because when you push through those things, you just gain so much respect, not only for you, but for your body and what an amazing machine it is and what it can really withstand. It's really quite amazing. My body surprises me all the time, and I'm so pleasantly surprised on most days that, like, wow, I had no idea that was even possible for me. Especially like when I decide, because I never ever run, it hurts too bad. But you know, some days I'll really push myself and I'll see a hill and I'll make the decision to like sprint up it and give myself a chance to kind of get into cardio range, because that's not something that I do very often. So I'm like challenging my body to do something simple that pushes me out of my comfort zone, and it's gonna hurt a little bit, but man, it feels so good after I've accomplished it and look back and it's like, hey, I decided to do something. It kind of sucked, but man, the outcome of it, like it's really going to yield some positive results for me, and it feels good once it's done. So back to restate the question, how do you motivate yourself every day? You just have to wake up, take a deep breath, and your routine is going to be different from mine, but I like to wake up really early, go downstairs, start a cold brew, or start if I need to like wipe down the counter, just start a load of dishes, do some laundry, get my body moving a little bit, and then I sit down with my day planner and my journal, and I'll map out everything that I have to do for the day. And in the keynotes at the bottom, I'll say, I'll make little points for myself, like, keep moving. Don't, try not to sit down more than 3 times. Don't forget to, I don't really take a lunch break, but I do take about 20 minutes to take an afternoon walk. So I just remind myself and put these little key points in my daily journal, so that, not that I'm going to forget to do them, but every time I see them, it's just another reminder to stay motivated. And in seeing those things and making a point to write them down, that is motivating me. It kind of keeps me accountable, and it just serves as a really good daily motivation for myself. And please, if you aren't into journaling, I would highly suggest that you get a journal. It doesn't have to be a big one or a fancy one, but start journaling. Journal your goals, journal things that you would like to see changes in your life, things that, like, for me, like, I'm trying for the next 2 months to cut out all dairy from my diet. So I'm going to be leaving myself little, tips on how to stick to that, little motivations, little quotes, things that I can look at that are just going to spark more drive and willpower and motivation in myself. Moving on. So where do you find the willpower or the drive? Now, as I said before, I am an all or nothing type of person. So for me, once I do all my research, and research really helps me gain this form of confidence. Like, I really have an understanding of the body chemistry that's happening, of the science behind these tools that I use to reach my goals. I feel really confident after doing a lot of research that I can jump head first into whatever it is that I'm doing at the time, and it really, to give it everything that I have, like a full 200%. And I've always been this way. It developed as a strong character trait in me when I was just a child. I understand that the vast majority of my personality, my moral compass, my values, my character traits, and my overall ambition towards life and my goals really directly correlates with how my childhood developed and kind of played out. Not to get too deep or too personal here on my channel, but I did lose my mom to Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and she had colon cancer. When I was 9, she passed away. Excuse me, this is why, or where I should say, my weight gain and my poor eating habits and all of that really began to spiral. It was slow at first, but it eventually became the elephant in the room. It really began to control and consume my life. You guys know how these things go. I was grieving so deeply for the loss of my mom that the only thing that actually helped me feel comforted or have a full feeling, if that makes sense, like when you lose someone that you love so very much, like there's just this hole, this void in your soul, in your heart, in your stomach, in the pit of your stomach, and it feels like it can never be filled up again. So once I realized that food really had this filling effect, and really what it was is all the chemicals in the food flooded my brain with dopamine and gave me all of this feel-good hormone that I mistook food for comfort. And as I've stated in other videos of mine, food was my most my best friend. Let's just put it that way. It never let me down, and it was a true confidant. It was always there. Food and my chronic depression and just debilitating anxiety, like those were my closest confidants because they were always there. So like I said, I merely survived between one dopamine rush to the next, from, feeding my brain and my body with all of this sugary chemicals and toxins and genetically modified. I mean, just all of that. I lived between one dopamine response to the next, which is that feel-good hormone. And basically, once all of that dopamine would wear off, I would crash even lower, which led to years and years of chronic depression and anxiety, and my binge disorder really developed over this time, and my weight just began to climb higher and higher and higher. And I had a real toxic and dependent relationship with food. And I'll just admit that food has been the longest relationship that I have ever had. So let's fast forward a few years. I had graduated college by this point with my Bachelor of Science degree. And all through college, I played college basketball on scholarship. And although my weight steadily got higher and higher, I was able to manage it. Like, people always told me, oh, you carry your weight well, which to me was never a compliment. It's kind of like saying, like, oh, well, she has a cute face. Like, thank you, but that is not a compliment. But so I've graduated college. I no longer played basketball. So not having this really strenuous exercise on a daily basis, my weight absolutely became unmanageable. It began to spiral completely out of control, and it consumed my life. I ate from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep at night. And in saying that, I mean, I developed all kinds of issues from eating so much sugar and complex carbs and things that my body had no idea what to do with. I developed really bad chronic lower back issues and digestive issues. Thought that I had IBS for a while, but it got to the point where I couldn't put anything in my mouth without, within 30 minutes to an hour, having just a terrible stomach ache. And I was getting headaches, and the list just goes on and on and on. But my weight had absolutely become unmanageable at this point. And there came a day where I'm pretty sure I was getting ready for bed one night, and I was washing my face, and you know how you get real close to the mirror and you're trying to make sure that you haven't missed anything, and you're wanting all your pores to be clean. And I caught my eye line in the mirror, and I was really staring at myself, not in a conceited way, but really just watching my eyes in the mirror. And I kind of realized that I was having trouble actually looking at myself. And I tried to look at myself for even just 10 seconds, and without fail, not on purpose, but like my eyes would divert away, as if you were caught staring at a stranger and they turned around and you made eye contact, and you kind of, dart your eyes away as if you're embarrassed. And that's what was happening with me. I really couldn't even look at myself, and I got to thinking about it, and other than a glance here or there, just to make sure that no hairs were sticking out everywhere on my way to work, like, I had not really looked at myself, my own reflection in the mirror, and I had no idea how long. It had been months. And that was an earth shattering moment for me. It really shook me to my core. I almost began to spiral into a depression at that point. I know I probably spent the next hour or so in my bathroom floor just sobbing and feeling really sorry for myself until those gears started turning again, and I got my heartbeat back, and my soul started, that fire started kind of burning again. It was a low ember, but I started having an intense conversation with myself, and I just knew that I was going to have to do something. That all the things that I'd tried in the past, running to doctors for medications that were going to basically slap a band-aid on the issue and never really address the problem, all the excuses that I had made, being big runs in my family, it's genetics, my mom was big, etc., etc., etc. I had made so many excuses. I had relied on the excuse of the fact that I have polycystic ovarian syndrome and I'm insulin resistant and XYZ. Those lists go on. I had leaned on those crutches and allowed them to become my identity. Honestly, I had allowed those excuses to become who I was, and to always fall on those and basically use those excuses anywhere that I could so that I didn't have to put in the hard work and suffer more than I had already suffered in my life. Because I had this mentality of like, life has been so cruel and unjust and unkind to me and poor, pitiful Clancy. And honestly, I probably could not have said this to you guys even a year ago without just breaking down and crying, because I still felt so ashamed and so guilty for all of those years that I allowed myself to use those excuses. But I'm telling you, I have such a good head on my shoulders now, and this whole experience has been so, so empowering and just uplifting and monumental for me. And I hope that some of the things that I say, if not all of the things that I say, just drive this spark into your life so that you realize that, like, if I can do this, you can do this. I mean, honestly, it took about 6 months of not making excuses and making a point to put myself first every single day before I ever saw results. And that was so hard, to stick to something without seeing results, because I knew that eventually I would start seeing results. And man, let me tell you, when I did, I was so fired up that I swear I have never looked back. I have never looked back, because it was so empowering. It lifted my spirits. It really proved to myself that as long as I believe in myself and I see my goal, the end goal, and I put the work in, if I'm putting the work in, of course it's going to pan out. Of course I'm going to succeed, because I'm making a point to take care of myself and to love myself and project that love. And when you project love and light and encouragement and you just push that out into the world, like, honey, that is what you are going to receive back tenfold. I truly believe in the power of manifestation, and like I said, if you put that out there, like, that's what you're going to receive back. And I think that was a really, really important aspect or part of all of this for me, was like, I truly had to choose to be positive, because if I had a bad day and I was projecting negativity, my whole day was ruined. Like, my whole day was bad, and I felt like I couldn't really meet people where I wanted to, because if I was being negative and putting that out there, like, their attitude back towards me was shut off. They were closed off and negative back to me. And that's the opposite of what I was going for. So your words are powerful. be really careful with your words. Project joy and positivity and encouragement, and that's not only to say like to other people, like you have to talk to yourself positively. That's why I journal. Like I make a point every morning to say positive things to myself that I can look at during the day and carry those on and remind myself to stay in that positive mood and to just stay in that light and that basically that presence of love. And just it's kind of like I'm holding myself to this higher expectation, because I know that if I work towards it, like it's all going to work out and it's all going to benefit me. It's never going to hinder me. It's always going to benefit me. And that goes for you guys too. So sorry, I got a little off track there. Let's go back and kind of recap this last question. Like I was saying, there came a day where I realized I had not really looked at myself in the mirror for a while, and when I tried to really look at myself, it was difficult for me, and I was really just ashamed and disgusted, and I cried for a while, and then I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and I realized that, I got myself into this mess. I can't expect anyone to swoop in and fix my mess. It's mine. And that meant that this journey was going to have to be mine as well. And I didn't know what I was going to have to do, but like I said, I was willing to try anything. And so I just started to dive really deeply into my research. And that's when I started to figure out, like, our food corporations and, big pharma and all of these people are lying to us. And all of these things, all these red flags started firing off and adding up. And I just realized that I had basically been poisoning my body and poisoning my mind, and just my overall health was so far gone because of the food that I've been eating, which led me into this toxic cycle of depression and anxiety because of what I was putting into my body. And so, as you guys have heard me say, these are weapons for my arsenal. I keep these in my back pocket. Having this understanding and this knowledge of, you are what you eat. What you put in is going to affect how your body functions, how your brain functions, how your hormones function, and how you feel. So that was such an eye-opener that I was like, okay, let's buckle down. I cut out everything. I went so hard. Like I said, I am an all or nothing type of person, and I knew like I can't just do this a little bite at a time. So when I decided to buckle down, I cut out sugar, I cut out carbs, I cut out all processed food, and I started eating as clean as possible. And guys, the weight just started falling off of me left and right. I had this whole whoosh effect that a lot of people will talk about happening when you just cut all of that out, and you're making sure that your body is getting enough water, and et cetera, et cetera. I started really seeing such a difference in my bone structure and the weight on the scale and just my overall measurements. And honestly, the biggest factor was how much better I felt. My back pain started to go away. I started sleeping better, and I stopped craving sugar and carbs as much. I'm not saying that I don't still crave them from time to time, especially when you eat a processed, prepackaged form of meat or something that has some sucralose or maltodextrin or some kind of sugar as a preservative in that meat. I will notice that by the end of the day or the whole next day, I will have cravings for sugar and carbs and things like that. So that is why I still continue to eat as clean as possible, to stay away from those things that only release dopamine in my brain and kind of trick my brain and my body to craving more of those toxic, chemical-full, carb-full items that are just not good for me. And I know that, it's really just a big trick, and we get sucked up into that trap. So that's why I continue to eat as clean as possible. Let's see here. So let's just recap and then we'll finish out this video. Where do I find the willpower and the drive? As I stated, I'm just that type of person, I think. But anyone can spark your own willpower and your own drive and find ambition to keep going and to continue to push yourself. Like I said, for me, I had just gotten to a point where I was so disgusted and ashamed of myself and the decisions that I had made and just my overall appearance. I was really ashamed of how I looked on the outside. Not to say that I wasn't a good person and that I didn't love the type of person that I was, and I knew that I was a good person and I was full of love and joy, and I just had so much to give and to offer. But a lot of that was completely overlooked because as a lot of you may have experienced, especially if you do struggle with weight, it seems as though larger people don't get the respect that thinner people get. And I'm sure some of you will, not agree with me, and that's totally fine. But a lot of my friends that have been overweight, and for me personally, like I said, this is my personal experience and my personal journey. For me, I have struggled with feeling like I am heard and understood my whole life. And I'm sure a lot of that was my depression and my anxiety lying to me. But I have really struggled with this aspect my entire life of just feeling like people just don't really listen. And this is something that I still feel, even though I've lost over 140 pounds, I still feel like this is just a fault of mankind, a fault of humankind, and it's not so much a personal thing anymore. But people do not listen with the intent to understand. People listen with the intent to respond. So this is just something that I have come to understand and to know as a 30-year-old person. But as I have always felt like as I'm speaking, instead of really listening to what I'm saying and trying to understand all the components of what I'm saying and understand that, like, I wouldn't be saying this if I have not thought it through and thought about the whole picture and like all of these different aspects of what I am saying, I wouldn't be saying it. That whole time that I'm talking, and maybe you feel the same way, is they're trying to think of how they're going to respond. So they're really not taking it in and really truly having an understanding of what you're saying or where you're coming from. At least for me, that is how I have always kind of felt, and I still struggle with that a lot. I'm trying to kind of navigate myself through that still today, but and it's gotten better, but I still feel like larger people do not really get the respect that they deserve at times. People forget that just because you're a larger person that you are intelligent, that your opinion is valid, that you are just as worthy of attention and adoration and love as the next person, whether they are large or thin. Like, these are the things that I have come to understand and the things that I have felt over the years. And I just really feel like larger people are not respected as much as they should be at times. And I'm not saying that all the time that there's no respect given or shown, but like I said, this has just been my personal experience. So I always make a point to try to encourage someone and give a compliment. That you guys have no idea like what one simple compliment can do for a person. I don't even want to get too far off base. That can be a whole other video. We can touch base on all of that on my next video, but just remember to love and respect other people, but in saying that, you have to love and respect yourself. And I want you guys to not only show love and respect for yourself, but like that will also aid in like where your willpower and your drive come from, because when you find that it's worth it, that you are worth it, all of that other stuff is going to come so much easier. And I can't even tell you guys how excited I am to finally have a platform here on YouTube so that we can have these conversations and you guys can bring things up, questions, address concerns or topics with me, and I have an opportunity to sit down and really talk to you guys in length and respond to your questions and your concerns. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited that my content might actually find or reach someone who is in the same position that you and I have been in, that they're actually going to benefit from my content and actually get some good out of it. Like, I can't even really explain how empowering and uplifting and just motivational that is for me. And I'm just so thankful that you guys have chosen to meet me here this morning and to watch this whole video. If you've made it through this far, thank you so much for joining me here today. And feel free to like, subscribe, and comment on this video as well as the next videos to come. Invite a friend. If there's anyone who is struggling with motivating themselves, motivating others, sticking to a diet or a lifestyle change, or they just like to challenge themselves and see how far they can really push their body and see what you're made of, like, invite them to come watch these videos, to subscribe, to sit down with you and just enjoy, and then give you guys an opportunity to bat these questions back and forth between each other and spark other deeper conversations. And anyway, I am just so happy that you have joined me here today. I look forward to the next one. I look forward to seeing you guys all back here again. And again, thank you so much. Hit that like and subscribe button and turn on your notification icon so that you get all of my videos. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Clancy, your weight loss warrior. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.